It was just as creative and innovative as it was toxic and abusive.
American Apparel was one of the fastest growing fashion brands in the world. Known for their controversial advertising, it offered the youth something new at a time when people craved change. However, as the years went on, more and more employees came forward, exposing the dark and dirty secrets that were happening behind the scenes. And just as fast as American Apparel took over, the world shut them down, leaving them to fade into obscurity. Founded in 1989 by Dove Charney, American Apparel was one of the few companies exporting ethically produced made-in-the-USA products. Although their lineup mostly consisted of blank t-shirts and hoodies, their provocative and controversial advertising transformed an otherwise regular clothing company into a brand at the heart of a societal shift. At a time when brands like Abercrombie & Fitch dominated the market with high-quality advertisements featuring perfect-looking people in luxurious locations, American Apparel went in the opposite direction. Instead of hiring traditional models and planning photo shoots, American Apparel advertised their products with more spur-of-the-moment photographs akin to what you would see posted on MySpace. Dirty floors, small apartments, and unmade beds became the backdrop for what would later become one of the biggest brands in the world. Dove Charney, the creator of the company, would later reflect on these advertisements by saying, "What made it special is that it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't contrived, it was honest, it was real." Many of their advertisements received backlash for their suggestive and sexual nature. However, they were also praised as their models didn't wear makeup, they featured people of color, the photos weren't airbrushed, and they didn't make an effort to conceal blemishes, imperfections, or asymmetrical features. Despite them going too far at times and having multiple ads banned due to their promiscuity, American Apparel was named Marketer of the Year at the first LA Fashion Awards, and by 2007, Outlaw Consulting ranked American Apparel as the 8th most trusted brand, ahead of companies like H&M and Levi's. It was clear that the youth wanted something new, and American Apparel was the only brand that recognized that. In 2008, American Apparel launched 2 activist campaigns, the first being Legalize LA, which promoted amnesty for illegal immigrants, as well as the Legalize Gay campaign that promoted repealing Proposition 8, a proposition that, if passed, would have banned same-sex marriage in the state of California. However, the advertisements and political stance of the company were only part of how the brand achieved its cult following. What really sealed the deal was the adoption of American Apparel's clothing by an emerging party scene fueled by indie dance music, digital cameras, and early social media. What's now commonly referred to as the Indy Sleeze era was an exciting time for teens and young adults. A writer for the magazine Paste described the time as a reaction to the early years of Obama's presidency. The economy may have crashed, but there was still a sense of sparkling optimism in the air. Although technology was beginning to resemble what we have today, the internet still felt like another world where you could be yourself or someone completely different. The concept of your employer or a family member coming across your post and you suffering real-life consequences for it didn't exist yet, which made for an online culture of posting the craziest, trashiest, illicit photos you took last Friday night.
It was just this time of sort of lawlessness without the internet sort of looming over us.
There was no fear of the takedown culture. If you did something outrageous, you're safe because everybody's a little bit nuts. Everybody's having a good time. It was totally liberating.
And because American Apparel advertised their products in a similar fashion, it's no surprise their clothes became the unofficial uniform of the scene. Many of the musicians at the heart of the scene were wearing American Apparel clothing, and the brand played into this by playing their music in the retail locations. It was these small connections to a trendy scene that made American Apparel employees micro-celebrities.
There was many times where I'd find myself talking to an actor or an artist or a musician that I really admired, and they'd say, "So what do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I work at the American Apparel factory." And they go, "Whoa, cool. I heard that place is crazy." And it's just being part of American Apparel at that time, you felt notoriety. You felt this tiny sense of celebrity.
Many of the models featured in American Apparel advertisements were actually store employees. If you wanted to work at an American Apparel store, you would simply ask to apply and they would take a Polaroid of your face and body. No resume would be submitted alongside the photo, and the photo wouldn't be taken if you were wearing makeup. According to one ex-employee, an interview sheet would be filled out, but I never knew a manager who made use of that. These photos Photos would often be hung on the wall behind the register before being sent to the head office, where an anonymous team would decide if the applicant fits their brand well enough to work there. However, after being hired, your job was always in jeopardy, as according to an ex-employee, if you arrived to work in an outfit that didn't represent the style of the brand, you would be fired. Your physical appearance was the only important part of the job, and employees would regularly be photographed by upper management to make sure they met their standard of beauty. According to a since-deleted investigation into American Apparel's hiring policy, one source told Gawker that your photo would have to be taken and approved as part of the promotion or raise process. They also went on to say that your looks determine your position and pay rate, not how effective you are at your job. Employees were also instructed to ignore customers when they entered the store to create an aloof "we're cooler than you" vibe. According to a leaked copy of American Apparel's internal employee styling guide, other small details that would cost you your job include wearing bulky watches or stainless steel belt buckles, being in a band, having narrow eyebrows, narrow glasses, or wearing shoes from any of their band brands. And despite all this, American Apparel regularly had lines around the block full of people waiting to apply to work at their stores.
We had lines around the block for people that wanted to come work for the store, which is crazy.
Almost everyone working for American Apparel, from retail store employees to upper management, were hired because of their appearance and age. Dov Charney specifically refused to hire anyone with an MBA, as he believed young, inspired people would be the difference required to make his brand big. And in a way, he was right. This led to many of the upper management positions being held by young, inexperienced people.
I'm 23 years old, and next thing you know, I'm in charge of global retail supply projections.
I was getting sent around the tri-state area, and then tri-state area turned into Toronto, and then Toronto turned into like, oh, you're Asian, go to Japan, and ended up being the general manager for Japan. This is like from when I was, I want to say like 18 to 22.
At this point in time, the Intelligence Group, a trend and market research firm, listed American Apparel as the second top trend-setting brand, only behind Nike. And it was being ran by a bunch of 18 to 23-year-olds with zero business experience. In what world can you expect to go from working a cash register to relocating to Japan to run several of the fastest-growing clothing stores in the world? American Apparel's success story truly is comparable to none.
It was a great place to become an adult. You know, I started at 20, I was a kid.
The three most iconic pieces of American Apparel clothing were the Flex Fleece Zip Hoodie, a simple zip-up hoodie that came in many colors, which was famously worn by Mark Zuckerberg. The Disco Pants, affectionately known as the art school version of leggings, which was also referenced in the song Gorgeous by Kanye West, and the V-neck t-shirts, which became a staple in the late 2000s to early 2010s. American Apparel had built their entire empire off of giving the youth something new. It was all about change, a new style, a new career, new music, and a new outlook on life. However, change was once again on the horizon, and American Apparel would find themselves on the wrong side of history. Society began to shift away from the loud and proud party environment of the late 2000s to early 2010s in favor of a more politically correct culture with a focus on sharing experiences of and harassment with the world. Everyone's tolerance for inappropriate behavior and mistreatment of employees was at an all-time low. And unfortunately for American Apparel, their approach to running a company turned out to be a breeding ground for toxic behavior.
My lived experience of that place was that it was just as creative and innovative as it was toxic and abusive once you got into that circle.
Many past employees began sharing their experiences working at the company, describing it as a party environment with many employees drinking and smoking on the job. Allegedly, some of the models featured in American Apparel advertisements were also engaging in a relationship with company owner Dov Charney, with some of them even living in his home to make themselves more available to him.
The first floor was traveling employees. The second floor is mostly models, people that had physical relationships with Dov.
Allegedly, Dov would approach American Apparel models and offer to buy them a car, give them a place to live for free, and promise them bonuses in exchange for having sex with him. Due to this alleged behavior, models felt pressured into acts in order to keep the job.
If you had initially entered a relationship with Dove, fully consensual, and then you were given a free car, a free place to stay, you're given bonuses, you're made to sign arbitration agreements, and then you're thinking about what happens if I say no. It would be, because of the favors that they were getting, extremely difficult to withdraw consent.
However, it turns out this sort of behavior had been common for longer than assumed. The first American Apparel store opened in 2003, and by 2005, former employees had already filed harassment lawsuits against company owner Dove Charney. Allegedly, Dove even had an employee get on their knees and perform oral while participating in an interview with journalist Claudine Coe. According to the interview, she asked Dove how he relaxes, and Dove replied by saying, "Oral I love it. I am a bit of a dirty guy, but people like that right now." Claudine writes in her article that explaining exactly how the rest of the night unraveled is somewhat difficult. Let's just say the female employee helped him put on a show for me. To give you an idea of how different life was in the 2000s, former American Apparel employees have since admitted to posting fake comments spreading rumors of Dove as a way of advertising the company.
We would create fake personas. I would comment, being like, "I can't believe that guy Dove Charney is at it again." Models. It was about attention.
The craziest part about all of this is that it worked. By 2009, American Apparel retail locations peaked at 281 stores and was the second biggest fashion brand in the world, only second to Nike. However, by 2011, 5 more employees came forward and filed a lawsuit against Dove, claiming to have been by him. Dove would claim these lawsuits were a testimony to his success, while denying any wrongdoing. However, just 3 years later, the company board removed Dove as CEO as he had become nothing but a liability to the company. Scrambling, Dove Charney made a $300 million bid for control of the company, but was ultimately rejected. And just 2 years later, in 2017, Gildan bought American Apparel for only $88 million. The rise and fall of American Apparel is kind of ironic. What made the brand so big was its sleazy and trashy approach to marketing, and what killed the company was people learning that the man behind the clothes was sleazy and trashy. Almost everything that made American Apparel cool at the time wouldn't fly today. Structuring your entire company based off of looks, writing fake articles about your CEO as a form of advertising, and openly sleeping with your employees is beyond inappropriate. Without dismissing the inappropriate behavior and wrongdoings within the company, American Apparel is a fascinating anomaly, as it never should have succeeded. Almost no one knew what they were doing other than selling cool, and the general public ate it up. What's also interesting is seeing the resurgence of Indy Sleeze, not just in fashion, but in music and social media as well. Low megapixel digital cameras, 4x3 video, and Crystal Castles-esque dance music are all returning. However, today, our online presence has merged with real life, and what's missing from the original movement is the anonymity that surrounded it all. Since Dove was removed from American Apparel, he has gone right back to his roots by starting a new fashion brand called Los Angeles Apparel, a brand that's almost indistinguishable from American Apparel, featuring similar advertisements, clothing, and even a similar font. While American Apparel continues to exist, today it mostly serves as a wholesale website for buying bulk clothing. They've also stopped manufacturing their products in America, something they once proudly advertised, and instead switched to factories in countries like Honduras and Nicaragua.